Welcome, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. This time I'm coming your way to review a movie that I've known about. Strangely enough, I've known about this movie before they even started filming this movie because I reside somewhere in Minnesota, and back in the time when this movie was being produced, or before it was being produced, or right before it was being produced, I was doing a lot of, well, not a lot, but I was doing some low budget independent short films and short videos at the time. So I was actually, this is before I had internet, so I was actually utilizing the Minnesota Film Board hotline, which was a telephone service, to put basically ads up for people that were interested in, acting enthusiasts and stuff, to actually cast in my short films and short videos and stuff. So I was actually, using the Minnesota Film Board hotline right around the time that they were actually maybe casting and getting crew together to film this movie. And I'm pretty sure, I wish I would have recorded it, like, with a microphone, but I'm pretty sure they actually said Sam Raimi was the director, because I remember being like so excited, like obviously in the 90s, obviously I was, at the time I was younger, so I was more of a Sam Raimi fan and stuff, and because of Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness and Darkman. And we even Quick and the Dead, was fun at the time. And I don't know if this is a movie he did following Quick and the Dead, quite possibly, but I remember being like, oh my God, Sam Raimi's going to make a movie in Minnesota. And, so I sent in, of course I didn't have any official, other than working on my own short films and videos. I didn't have any other experience working on other movies and stuff, so obviously they didn't hire me to be a crew member on this. Would have been really cool to have been a crew member on this. And then I saw the movie, and then I'm like, recently, and then I'm like, God, maybe I didn't miss out on anything, at the end of the day, after having seen it. I never had any interest in seeing this, this came out in 1998. So yeah, they probably would have filmed it in 96 or 97. And I remember thinking at the time, like it was like 2 years or 2 or 3 years after Fargo. And I remember thinking, Sam Raimi had some connection with the Coen brothers, in the early 90s and stuff. And I remember thinking, what is this Sam Raimi's attempt at doing, after the success of Fargo, Sam Raimi's going to try to make his own Fargo? Like, what's going on here? So I never had any interest enough to see this, to actually see it, until this past, summer of 2024. On the price tag here, it says we've got a clearance $3 sticker of June 27th, 2024. So I probably got this sometime in July or something. I wasn't going to watch it in July because obviously I knew it was a winter movie. So I'm like, I put it on the pile. I'll watch it in the winter. And I recently have done that. So now I'm coming your way to review Sam Raimi's A Simple Plan. So going into this, what were my expectations? I mean, this is possibly the movie he did after doing The Quick and the Dead, which, I don't really like westerns, so I mean, we did actually go to see, obviously being big fans of Sam Raimi in the 90s, we did see Quick and the Dead. A couple acquaintances that I knew at the time, we did see Quick and the Dead in the theater, and although I don't really like westerns, I guess I kind of thought Gene Hackman was good in it, and I loved the Sam Raimi style of the Quick and the Dead. It was just dripping with the Sam Raimi visual style. So I was actually interested, kind of, after I got this, to check it out and see how Sam Raimi was going to do his kind of Sam Raimi style take on Fargo. Cut to me watching it, and it's like, holy shit, this is probably the most drab, boring, blandly shot Sam Raimi movie that possibly exists, or definitely the most boring, drab, bland shot movie that Sam Raimi made that I ever saw. And I couldn't really believe it. Maybe halfway into this movie, I mean, when you watch this movie, being familiar with Sam Raimi making one of the most amazing independent low-budget horror films ever made, Evil Dead, and to be so further on in his career and making drab bullshit like this, like with nothing really at all visually interesting anywhere near what he did in his first movie. And it's like, I guess I can just pretty much start the review by saying very, very disappointed with, like, there's not one single shot, or at least that I can remember. I mean, if it was there, I think I'd remember it. in this movie that looks anything like Sam Raimi. So I can only assume that this was just like, I mean, it's got music by Danny Elfman, so I don't know how much actual like, control Sam Raimi had with this movie. I know that he had worked with Danny Elfman, of course, on Darkman and for one of the themes in Army of Darkness and stuff. So they've got previous working history, but this just kind of seems like a movie where just Sam Raimi was just hired on as a director, and the producer basically, the producers had, the control over it or whatever. So it was kind of like just a paycheck kind of thing for Sam Raimi. But I could not believe how the late, after the, although I don't really love it because I'm not a big fan of Westerns, but you can argue, you can definitely say the Sam Raimi visual flair is there so much in The Quick and the Dead. It's like, I couldn't believe that, like, whose idea was it to, like, hire Sam Raimi for this, one of the most visually interesting directors of the 90s, and to hire the guy who did Darkman, Army of Darkness, Quick and the Dead, to do this bleak, bland thing and make it look like it could have been shot by any old or young idiot. I don't know why I said old, but so I was really, really, really disappointed. I was like, what the hell? How can you take, and Sam Raimi, this is before he did Spider-Man, and that was visually Sam Raimi-esque, and it's like, whose decision was it to have Sam Raimi direct a movie and have it not at all look like a Sam Raimi movie? I don't understand what the point of it is. It's like getting, well, I was going to say Charlie Chaplin to make a depressing drama, but he's done that himself. But it's like, I mean, it's like, what the hell is it like? I'm trying to make a comparison. It's like, okay, here you go. Taking Pamela, okay, here you go. Pamela Anderson in the 90s, in the earlier mid-90s, putting her in a role as a nun in some just 3-hour-long religious movie about nuns. That's the best example I can come up with, or putting, this will kind of date me a little bit, Christy Canyon, cast her, as a, as, a lead in this epic frickin' 3-hour-long drama about whatever, survivor of a Tourette's patient. I don't know. But to have this guy who is so well known and so good at his visual flair of movies, and to either hire him to make this movie, and okay, Sam, I know you're known for your fun, amazing visual flair in your movies, but let's have none of that. This is a drab, depressing. I just reviewed Last Picture Show, so it's 2 drab, depressing movie reviews back to back. But this is a drab, depressing movie, and we don't want anything to excite the viewer or to entertain the viewer, or we don't want any of your normal, exceptional wizardry of the cinematic style. We don't want any of that. Well, then why are you hiring me? I don't know, because your name came up. And a friend of mine, or my daughter loves Evil Dead. I hate it. And my daughter said she's going to leave the house and move to Europe if I don't cast you in this movie, or to direct this movie. I can't get my head around this movie at all. I thought it would have at least had like a subdued Sam Raimi cinematic style. Briefly, obviously this movie stars Bill Paxton, Billy Bob Thornton, and the now what's that, retired Bridget Fonda. And incidentally, I guess Bridget Fonda met Danny Elfman on this movie, and they subsequently got married. And it kind of made me wonder, like, how does an actress meet the composer? Like, it's not like the composer is on set, is he? Like he could have been, but I mean, usually the composer, it's weird. It kind of makes no sense. Like, is that a contrived story? Like, this actress met the composer. I mean, it's no different than saying, yeah, the actress met the guy who edited the movie. or Color Time did, or the negative cutter. She fell in love with the negative cutter on this movie. It's like two different time frames. The shooting of the movie and post-production and music, it's so funny. So Bridget Fonda met Danny Elfman on A Simple Plan, but holy crap. But anyway, this is kind of maybe more towards the end of Bridget Fonda's career. I mean, I think this is right around the time, this is right around the time of Jackie Brown and, right before Lake Placid and stuff. So this is on Bridget Fonda's, like, some of her last movies or whatever. And, Bridget Fonda plays the pregnant wife of Bill Paxton. They live somewhere in this. I was kind of excited to watch this movie and like, ooh, let's see if we can see anywhere we know, being a resident of Minnesota. We'll cut to, half hour or halfway through the movie. Well, this movie just takes place in some just nowhere country, town or whatever. So whatever, but so needless to say, didn't recognize any place from this movie, but I was really disappointed to see that. I think there was some possibly CG snow and CG breath, and it's just like, oh my god. I think there were even a couple of shots that were low angles shooting upwards that were green screen for some stupid reason. And so I guess before I end the review, I'll briefly say Bill Paxton's main star. He's got a pregnant wife, Bridget Fonda, and he's got a dumb brother, Billy Bob Thornton. They come across this money, just being rednecks out in the woods, just chasing a dog or a fox or something. A fox made them crash your old fucking piece of shit car. That's another thing. When does this take place? Because it looks like it takes place in the 70s or the 80s, but I don't think they ever tell you when it takes place. I don't think it takes place in the 90s. Maybe just like with Fargo, it takes place in the 80s, but it never said it took place in the 80s. So this fox makes them crash the car, and they chase the fox to go kill it into the woods. They find this crashed little plane full of money, and the whole movie is and I will say, the drama and all the negativity that ensues based on, coming across this money is really kind of interesting. It's the best part of the movie, and that's really got nothing to do with Sam Raimi. It's more like the screenwriter. But all of the, how long is this? This is it is 2 hours long. So just like with Last Picture Show, you got 2 hours worth of, negative, bleak, depressing movie here. And this one's in the cold tundra of Minnesota to make it even better, with sometimes CG breath and I think sometimes CG snow, which was really annoying and depressing. Not depressing, annoying and frustrating. Frustrating and annoying, but holy Toledo. So the movie is just, all of the drama and the bodies that hit the floor, based on, or hit the ground, or bodies, let the bodies hit the snow. Let the bodies hit the snow. But surprisingly, an amount of people that end up, getting killed or, dying because of them finding this money. And I guess it does raise kind of a, that's the best part of the movie, I guess, is just it kind of, as the viewer, you're kind of like, well, what would I do? And it's kind of it's revealed at the end of the movie that I think there were some, a certain percentage of the bills were numbered, or the serial numbers were taken down. And it's just you know what? I mean, if you take 100 every now and then into your local, especially the size of that town, do you think some guy behind the counter at, Joe's fucking seed shop is going to be checking serial numbers? You can still spend, you just maybe don't want to take it to a bank, but you can spend the money at stores. Who the hell at stores, especially if this takes place in the 80s? I mean, I've worked retail. I've shopped places with cash for decades, and I've never had anyone, of course I don't spend a lot of $100 bills, but I've never had anyone look at $100 bills serial numbers. So just give me a minute. I gotta look at these serial numbers and check it with this list that the FBI gave us to. I mean, it's just anyway. That's a small plot point, but I will admit, watching the movie and seeing these characters make these decisions, it does make you as a viewer go, what would I do? And it's so funny how Bridget Fonda character, the pregnant wife, is kind of and it's kind of realistic in a way, because a lot of women control men and stuff. she's like the ringmaster of, like, telling Bill Paxton more or less what to do, and some of her advice ends up being detrimental and not really good advice and leads to shitty things, possibly people's deaths. I can't remember. Only watched it once, but so it's 2 hours of just like the drama and deaths and whatever carnage that ensues based on them finding this money and paranoia. And, I will say, I don't know whose credit this is to. I'd say probably the screenwriter more than necessarily Sam Raimi. But I guess he, there are scenes, especially that one where there's, I won't ruin it if you haven't seen it, but there's an altercation with, with Bill Paxton, his Billy Bob Thornton, and like Billy Bob's best friend. That is really tense. And it's just like, you kind of know as a viewer, seasoned movie fan, what's going to happen, but it was even even knowing what was going to happen was pretty tense leading up to it. And so this movie isn't like incompetent by any stretch, but I was just like, I guess it's really at this stage of my life, like, it's just not something. I don't know if I ever would have been I might have been more open to this when it came out, but now pushing, inching ever closer to 50 years old, like, I don't want to watch a movie that's really this depressing and just, I kind of want to, try to just be more maybe in a good mood these days. I don't know if, like I say, if you watch my last picture show review, same thing. Like, I'm not exactly sure why anyone would want to, why these kind of movies necessarily are made, or, fans of these movies, like, what does that say about fans of these movies? Like, I'm not a big fan of depressing movies, and Fargo is a movie that I don't really like either. Just for the record, that there's a review of that movie on this channel as well, and that movie, unlike this one, it goes. I won't talk about. I'll just simply say that's one thing about Fargo. What I didn't like about Fargo, among other things, was just its teeter-tottering between serious and funny. It was just like, it didn't know. I don't know if it was their way of just trying to fuck with the audience. It's just like, okay, are we supposed to laugh now? Okay, we're going to laugh now. The guy's, coming up the deck with his ski mask on, and it's funny, and then he breaks in all of a sudden, okay, we got to stop laughing because it's serious now. And, it's just like, when you got a movie that, I suppose that's like life, though. It's like, you don't have necessarily a laugh track in life, or you don't know, something that seems funny could go serious, or vice versa in life. I don't know, but I'm not a big fan of Fargo either, so stands to reason I wouldn't be a big fan of A Simple Plan necessarily as well. But the only positives I can say about it I already said, which is just kudos to the writer and or director for actually bringing what I can would regard as genuine tension, and it kind of turns your stomach into knots, this movie, and I guess that's a credit to the writing and directing of this movie, maybe more so the writing, of this movie, to be able to tie your stomach into knots. And it's almost like, I guess it's done well enough in those regards to make you feel like it almost makes you like you're part of the family, and you're, it's kind of nice to turn this movie off and go, oh my God, I was spending the last 2 hours worrying about what we're going to do about this money, and it's like, it's not even our money. This isn't even real. This is just a movie. So, I guess it makes you anxious, as if you're a member of the family, like, maybe another brother of Bill Paxton, or I know I was the lover. I was the lover of I was Bridget Fonda's lover. That's my baby. Actually, that's not Bill Paxton's baby. That's my baby. I'm her secret lover. She's having an affair with me while Bill Paxton is at the seed plant, or whatever he does for a living. But so the only thing good I can say about this movie is, like, it turns your stomach into knots. It makes you anxious watching it, as anxious, maybe not as anxious as if you were one of the characters, but it made me anxious, or I guess it didn't do anything. I became, as a result of viewing it, I became as anxious, or anxious like the characters in the movie. And it was kind of nice to have the movie end and not have to worry about what we're going to do with the money anymore, because it was, we didn't have any problems with any money, and it was a movie. So yeah, even, so I guess, I can say that one positive thing about it, but I mean, the positive thing is a negative thing. Like, it kind of goes back to like me in this stage of my life. I'm not so much, I don't want to really be entertained with negative movies that are anxiety provoking, because I get enough of that anxiety in life and just, real life shit. So I don't know if I ever necessarily enjoyed movies that made you anxious, because who the hell, because of my childhood and my whole life, basically. So that's probably in a way why I don't like Fargo and that kind of stuff. But my star rating for A Simple Plan, even though it does a good job at, turning your stomach into knots and making you anxious and worrisome and giving you an ulcer, I was so disappointed. Like Sam Raimi, the guy who's known for like visual flair and humor and just really fun movies, from the guy who's brought you so many fun movies comes this absolutely not fun, depressing movie. Oh God, the star rating was difficult for the Last Picture Show as well. It's not usually not this difficult, but I think when I was sitting there watching it, it was just kind of like, yeah, this is. I guess I can go. Tell you what, I'll go as high. It's more like a 1 star out of 4 stars, but I can go as high as 1.5 stars out of 4 stars, just because it very successfully turned my stomach into knots and made me feel like I was one of the family that I had to deal with. I was why can't I fucking remember? Bridget Fonda's lover, and that's my baby. And I was worried about, I was actually telling her what to tell Bill Paxton to do. Because every time Bill Paxton told her a detail about the money, she'd come to me and give me a little, if you know what I mean. And then she'd ask, what should I do, dear? And I said, well, I want my baby's future protected. So Bridget Fonda, this is what you're going to tell Bill Paxton to do, and then he's going to do it. What the hell was I saying? I can't remember what I was saying, but I guess what I was saying was it does such a good job at making you feel like you're part of this whole conundrum that it deserves something for that. So I can go a whole 1.5 stars out of 4 stars. Like, I was aware of this movie for ever since it came out. I worked at a video store where this was on the DVD shelf. And also another thing, like the cover, it doesn't make you want to see the movie. The cover, the poster / cover, it's just like, it's a bleak blank, like, it doesn't make you want to see it. So I never saw it until now. So, so there you go. Is this Sam Raimi's most boring movie he ever made? Possibly. And least Sam Raimi-esque movie? I couldn't believe it. I was like waiting for like a shot that looked like a Sam Raimi shot. I couldn't believe it. So, admittedly, I haven't seen every Sam Raimi movie, but Jesus. Like, if you have seen every Sam Raimi movie and you're watching or listening to this review, like, is there another Sam Raimi movie that's as boring as this and, like, visually uninteresting? Like, it's so visually uninteresting, it's painful. So I guess I can stop bitching about that. I kind of opened the review with that, but I won't go into all that again. So I guess that pretty much does it for this review. Thanks so much for watching till the end if you did. Hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, we'll catch you on the next video.